Hi, I'm Eric Linask in the TMC newsroom, and I'm here with InGate's president, Steve Johnson. Steve, welcome again.
Hello, Eric.
So, Steve, last week we got into a discussion about SIP security, and now let's take it a step further and talk about something called deep packet inspection in this ongoing InGate knowledge base series. So maybe start us off by telling me what is deep packet inspection and why is it important?
Well, deep packet inspection is a term that describes how we are able to use our product to look very deeply into what is actually coming into the network. This is very important in SIP because we are now talking about bringing streams of information into a network that are not, let's say, invited in, like we do with email and web surfing and so forth, where we go grab something and bring it in. Now we're allowing people to actually come into our network by making an inbound phone call. So what we do with deep packet inspection is look very carefully at the SIP signaling stream to make sure that there are no malformed packets that might be there as a malicious way of bringing something into the network that you don't really want. And so what we are doing is finding a way to look very deeply into the packets, to look at everything that's included, and to then restrict what comes in to only those things that pass the very strict parser rules that we have built into our firewall and our separator for the purpose of SIP inspection. So deep packet inspection just means very clearly looking at all the packets and looking very closely at what they contain, and therefore being able to use that for routing and or for exclusion of things which are not desired into that network.
Can you tell me a little bit more specifically about the kinds of inspection that InGate conducts?
Sure. So we know that SIP is a layer 7 or application level protocol. We know that the OSI stack has 7 layers to it. So in our deep packet inspection, we can actually look into layers 2 through 7 to see that everything that we are getting is something that we have actually permitted or are permitting into our network. So we look at the SIP protocol packets especially to make sure that they are in fact compatible with the SIP standard based on the rules that we have established in our parser, in our firewall, which is just simply a way to say that SIP has a particular format for what it expects, what is going to be sent in, and we know precisely what that format is. And we can therefore look for anomalies in that and prevent those from being admitted into the network based on that rule. We can also provide intrusion detection and prevention algorithms that can, again, use what we are seeing in this deep packet inspection to make sure that we are not permitting something in that is clearly been identified as an intrusion into a network. So it could be trying to launch a virus or some other malware into your network or onto your PBX. And by knowing the signature of those things, we can avoid actually permitting those into the network. And we can also use it to look at what's already in the network to make sure that there's nothing that's somehow inadvertently slipped by. So we can do that. We can look at all kinds of things in the data portion, the datagram portion of the UDP to make sure that everything that we are getting is something that we want. And then at times to use it to route certain things to various locations in the network as well. So it has multiple uses, multiple purposes, but primarily it is one of those first level of security items that we provide to make sure that when you adopt SIP and you adopt voice over IP, you can be assured that you are going to be safe.
So basically the InGate product line offers the kind of security that businesses need to effectively protect their SIP-based voice over IP.
That's exactly right, and it goes beyond that too, because voice over IP is only one thing that SIP is now being used for. We hear a lot about unified communications, and in the future, we are going to be doing communications that are far different than just voice calls. We're going to be using video, and we're going to be using multimedia. We're going to be using instant messaging, and we're seeing presence, and we're using SIP for all kinds of purposes, some of which have been invented and we're using in laboratory environments or in real-world deployments. Others we haven't even considered or thought up yet, but will soon be available on the market, I'm sure. And once the network is outfitted with an in-gate product, an enterprise session border controller, all of those things can be easily added to the kinds of technology, kinds of applications that you're able to use over SIP.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
These discussions in our in-gate knowledge base series, of course, are based on a series of knowledge base email newsletters from in-gate, and I encourage all of you to sign up for that newsletter. You can do that at sophia@ingate.com, or you can just visit ingate.com to check out all of the in-gate knowledge bases. Thanks for watching us. Steve, thanks again for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk about a little more about the SIP protocol and SIP compliancy. I'm Eric Lanask. I've been talking with Steve Johnson, President of in-gate Systems.